So when it comes to Signalgate, which is the term being used by many members of the media to describe the egregious breakdown in security protocols by several principal secretaries in Trump's administration, it seems like people, whether they're in the administration or outside of the administration, are purposefully or ignorantly focusing on the wrong things. Now, predictably, the Trump administration went on the offensive, attacking Jeffrey Goldberg, the journalist involved in this whole thing, by pointing out that he's a Democrat. Okay. Pete Hegseth went into full denial mode, despite the fact that the National Security Council admitted this happened. Trump played dumb, which, to be quite honest, he may not have been playing. I think it's plausible. He probably wasn't in the loop on this nonsense because that just seems to be how the administration operates. Many Trump supporters are now debating the merits of what is classified and what is not classified, knowing full well that timelines, weapons, targets, and asset discussions for a major offensive strike are going to absolutely be classified. So I'm going to need everyone in that camp to just cut the crap on that nonsense. But what we are seeing now is an attempt to reframe the message and steer attention away from the fact that they engaged in not just illegal, but flat out stupid acts of OPSEC malpractice. I'm seeing people talk about how the Signal app has decent encryption without realizing that doesn't matter. You don't use your phone for classified or potentially classified discussions, period. And the reason is simple. It's not just the app that can be compromised, it's the phone itself, as well as the network the phone runs on. Which brings me to the new revelation we're experiencing today. One of the members of the Signal group was in Russia when these chats were taking place. Steve Witkoff was in Russia on March 13th when some of these messages were being exchanged. He sat in the Kremlin for 8 hours waiting to meet with Vladimir Putin. If you've ever had any interaction with Russia, you know that any off-the-shelf civilian tech entering the Kremlin is likely compromised in some way. If you've read John Sullivan's book, which covers his time as the US ambassador to Russia, you know that there was a basic assumption that your civilian equipment was always compromised, so you simply didn't use it to conduct business. You went into a SCIF, which is a sensitive compartmented information facility with secure connections. Embassies usually have them. Even in the US Embassy, American officials assumed that all electronics were compromised because we let Russian nationals work there as a show of goodwill. The only secure network was the one, as I said, in the SCIF, and there were multiple SCIFs across various facilities for that very reason. Now, the obvious question is, did Witkoff have his phone? And that's easy to determine, and I'm sure, or at least I hope, an investigation will look into whether he had the phone with the Signal app on it while sitting in the Kremlin, because I can almost guarantee that if he did, it was compromised. And if it was compromised, that means Russia has leverage. They know that this happened, and they don't even need intelligence on what took place in the messaging. They now have leverage to say, hey, we saw everything, and if we release this to your American public, they're going to go bonkers. They're going to be pissed. And now Pete Hegseth and everyone involved could be leveraged by the Russian government because of such foolishness. This could play parts in negotiations with Ukraine. I don't think people understand how big such a compromise could be when it comes to Russia leveraging the United States on the world stage. And here's the thing, they don't need to decrypt the messages. So this discussion about, well, the messages are really encrypted. Russia has cameras everywhere in those offices, and they're good. They can read over the shoulder. They can require specific apps to be installed on your device prior to entering the Kremlin. Apps that may contain spyware like Pegasus, which means they don't need to decrypt anything at all. The software just sees what you're seeing. So here we are, watching the administration try to brush off one of the most egregious security breaches potentially of this century. And I don't say that lightly. We're talking about high-level officials using unsecure consumer-grade technology to discuss war planning and policy. And they were so confident it didn't matter that they admitted to doing it. Then it comes out that one of them was in Russia while it was happening. And who knows what was discussed or intercepted. Because here's the thing, Russia doesn't quietly hack people. They love to use it as a flex, a power play. They do things like send flowers to your office after intercepting a chat where you mentioned to your wife that you have a sick child. They want you to know they're listening. Not all the time, but that's how good they are in this space. And right now, it looks like no one's really going to get in any serious trouble. Maybe Hegseth will go down. Maybe Witkoff. Maybe Waltz. I don't know, but there are already whispers about pardons for anyone who might face criminal charges. That is wild. And we're only 2 months into this thing, folks.